Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I am finally working on the Camaro ZL1 and I'm so excited because we're almost at that braking period, and once we get there, I'll be driving the car hard, I'll be taking it to the track, and I'll also be racing it against other cars. So I can't wait to get there. And I thought, why not in the meantime install its first modification that's not only important but beneficial, and that is an oil catch can. So that's exactly what we'll be installing on this car today. Now the main benefit of installing an oil catch can on this platform is because it prevents the intake system from being coated in oil, and also in this case oil being pulled onto the supercharger. And I know there's a debate on whether oil catch cans are really needed or required, but I do have them installed on my Shelby GT350 and I check them from time to time and they do catch some oil. And the oil catch can that I decided to go with is a MightyMouse mild system, and let me tell you that I read the instructions and it's not as easy as I thought. It's a bit involved because I do need to lift up the supercharger in order to route a hose through it. So this should be pretty interesting, but with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So here's a supercharger. So one thing that I do like about this engine bay is that there's plenty of space and room to work with. So it seems like it's easy to work on, but then again, I could be wrong. Either way, in order to get started, I need to remove these cables that are attached to these studs. These are blocking the bolts for the cover. So once I get these out, I'll go ahead and remove the bolts. So they're in the front, on the sides, and also towards the back. Once I get this cover off, then I'll have access to the supercharger. But before that, let me go ahead and show you the oil catch cans. So this is the box that it came in. I already opened it just because I went over the instructions. But either way, it has all the hardware needed in order to route the oil. It has the hoses, it has the breather filter, which is right here. And it also has the oil catch can, which is this right here. Built pretty well, looks pretty good quality, and I've heard nothing but good reviews about this. But now let me go ahead and get the tools so we can go ahead and get started. So now that the cover's off, as you can see and just how I read online, there's already oil on the supercharger, and this car only has 1,200 miles and it hasn't been driven hard at all. So that's the exact reason why we want to get a catch can, just to keep this clean and the oil in the catch can. In order to remove the supercharger, we need to remove these bolts. So there's some on this side and some on this side again. There's also some electrical connections we need to remove on both sides, then some PVC connectors. Then we need to remove the intake from the throttle body, and then we need to get this belt removed. After we do all of that, we can go ahead and lift up the supercharger. Right, I must admit that was a bit scary because I was a bit nervous because this is my first time dealing with the supercharger, especially disconnecting it, and I just didn't want to mess anything up. But let me show you what I did. So as I was trying to lift it up, I realized that I had forgotten to disconnect the electrical connection. So I went ahead and did that, which are these right here. Then I was trying to lift this up, but it was pretty hard because I didn't have any leverage. So I just went ahead and used this platform just to put my arm and then use both arms to lift it up. Then I managed to lift it up just a bit, but then the block that I was trying to use the first time, which is a little bit too tall, barely managed to get it in there. So I just ran and got this shorter one, and this one fit. But let me tell you that this is pretty heavy, at least for me. For some people it may not be, but it was pretty heavy for me. But either way, let me show you why we went ahead and did all of this. Let me get this light. Okay, so all of this that we did was just to get this little black piece right here. So we're going to be replacing that. This one is going to do is, it's just going to block the oil from going into the supercharger, and it's just going to be routed this way to a hose that we're going to be connecting. So I think that the hard part is out of the way, but I'm not too sure. But now let's go ahead and get that piece replaced. So this is the old one that I just pointed out that we just removed. Now I just need to go ahead and transfer the O-rings onto this one. And this one also has a little hole right there. We'll be adding this piece, and this is where the hose will be going in. Now, once we thread it, the hole needs to stay horizontal at around 8 or 9 o'clock. Once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and lower the supercharger. And yes, I know that I keep using this Army Tricks box as a table, but the installation is next, I promise. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll see you guys then. All right, so putting the supercharger back on was pretty easy. I just made sure that this hose was routed behind the thermostat and it has enough clearance so I can move it, and it's also not being squished by the supercharger. If not, then it wouldn't be able to go all the way down. I also went ahead and hand tightened the bolts with a little bit of hand torque, just because I don't have the appropriate torque wrench, but I will be getting it this weekend, and I'll just remove the cover to torque them. But I'm pretty confident that they're on there fine. And as you saw, they do have a special sequence to torquing them. Now, all I need to do is put the belt back on, the intake elbow, and then anything I disconnected, I'm just gonna go ahead and put that back on as well, put the cover, and then we can proceed to the catch can installation. All right, now everything is back on. So the next step is to actually mount the catch can. So I'll be using this to mount it, and I need to mount it on the radiator fan. So I need to remove this clip in order to add this piece there. Once we're done with that, then I actually need to split this hose as well, like around down the middle, just because I need to add this connector separator. Not sure what this is called, but looking at this, I think I'm gonna have to remove this intake elbow again, just because I don't have enough room to work with. And then I also need to splice this hose right here, just to have enough length to connect it to the oil catch can. And then with the rest of the hose, I use it on the clean side. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I already went ahead and spliced this hose up, and I already added the connector to it, connected it back in. The piece to mount the catch can is already in as well. So this is how the catch can looks. It's ready to be mounted. Now I also wanted to show you that it has this hose at the bottom, and this is pretty cool because you can actually drain the oil from here, and then you can just open and close this whenever you need to drain the oil. So now I just need to go ahead and mount it. Then I need to measure this hose and be very careful because I need to make sure that I have enough length in order to connect it from here to the clean side of the oil catch can. So now let's go ahead and do that. So this is how it looks once the oil catch can is mounted. I like how it looks. It's really nice and clean. Do make sure that when you mount it though, you mount it high enough so that it can clear this radiator hose, and make sure it's tight enough so it doesn't hit the radiator fan, but it's on there pretty sturdy. Now, as far as this oil drain hose, in the instructions say to mount it somewhere at the bottom. Now, I really haven't figured it out yet on where I'm gonna mount it, but I won't worry about that for now. And speaking about instructions, the instructions weren't the best, to be honest, but luckily I ended up finding a C7Z06 installation video for the oil catch can, and I mean, same engine, same blower, so I was able to follow along, except when it came to mounting the oil catch can, because it's different on the Corvette compared to the Camaro. But all in all, like I said, I was a bit nervous just because I really didn't know what to expect when removing the supercharger, but I'm glad that I got it done, especially because oil was already being coated on the supercharger. And it would have also been nice if GM were to offer a plug and play option for the oil catch can, like in the Shelby GT350, because this was very involved and it does take some time. But either way, I hope that this video helped you out, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.